This is a Jackson Jones feud. It is a brawl. We've talked about how incredibly personal it is. And the more these numbers stay tight like this, the sharper the attacks are going to get against each other. The more money is going to be spent. And I've said this a couple times. Rick Jackson and Burt Jones have everything on the line. And I will say, though, it looks like this race has stabilized a little bit to show that, again, it's a two-man race.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could look at Rick Jackson's numbers in two different ways. One is that this guy who hardly anyone outside of political and healthcare worlds had even heard of gets in the race in February and, with the help of a huge amount of cash, ends up being, if not the front runner, a co-front runner within a few weeks, right? The other hand, you can look at it as saying a guy who spent $65 million on ads, TV ads alone, and far more than that if you add all the money he's spending on mailers and staff and all the other things that a campaign has, is still deadlocked with Burt Jones, right? So you can look at that both ways.
Yep.
You can also look at it from Burt Jones's numbers both ways, that he has stopped the bleeding in his campaign. He's brought Rick Jackson down. There's lots of benefits there. You can also say, look, he's the guy who's been the basically running for governor the last 5 or 6 years, who's spent $30 million on his own campaign, and his numbers have hardly budged since the last AJC poll.
That's exactly right. Also, I think that I don't mean to imply that this race is over. It's only between Jackson and Jones, because there's that huge chunk of undecided voters that could accrue to Brad Raffensperger. And Jackson's numbers in particular could drop a little bit because he is making a first impression on so many people right now. This poll was in the field before the most recent governor's debate. It does feel like the Jones campaign is finally getting their arms around what's happening to them, and they're starting to launch attacks. They're starting to place oppo out there. So it does feel like Jackson could go down a little bit. And, if the stars align here for Raffensperger, he could use that undecided vote to his benefit. He hasn't exactly been the most dynamic candidate out there. So I don't know if I fully expect that to happen. But there's a very large share of Republican voters who still don't know how they feel. The other big piece of this, I think, is I am surprised that Trump endorsement has not made more of a difference in this GOP primary for Burt Jones. To be at just about 25%, that 3/4 of Republicans are not doing what Donald Trump is telling them to do. Georgia voters have always been much more independent in that over the last several cycles. They don't do just what Trump says. But I did think that Jones would be surfing off of that. I mean, he's gotten as much mileage out of that as he can. I think he's even spent a lot of money reminding people and telling people, maybe for the first time, I'm the Trump endorsed candidate. He'll continue to do that. But these numbers show he needs to do a lot more than just be the Trump candidate to even think about winning this thing.
Yeah, and certainly Georgia Republican primary voters did not do what Trump wanted them to do back in 2022 when Brian Kemp won by 50-something points over the Trump-backed David Perdue. But you're right, especially now that Trump is president again, he's back in power. I'm sure the numbers haven't come out quite yet, but I'm sure they will show that Trump remains unbelievably popular among Republican primary voters. Because you know why we know that? Because not just other polls, but because every candidate on that debate stage and every candidate on the Republican side running for just about any office is all saying they want to fulfill and fight for Donald Trump's agenda. Even if you're Brad Raffensperger, who of course made his name in Georgia politics really for standing against Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election,